All right, I am broadcasting again. Some services may just pick this up. Looks like YouTube is trying and Twitch is trying. Periscope and Facebook are live. Mixer is live. What's going on, YouTube? What's the problem today? Live on Twitch, yeah, good, okay. Interesting. Did it ever go out on Twitch? It feels like, I think my connection dropped entirely for a moment there, but I got it back on. YouTube says it's connecting again. Let me go and kick it like I did before in the live dashboard. It's trying. I think it's trying. You back on YouTube, Andy Calloway? Because my YouTube is not updating. Refreshing. The dramatic pause. Is there a picture? Yeah, we're back, huh? Yay. Okay, good, thanks. Sorry, I can't see the picture, so this will be interesting to see if it... Yeah, it looks like everything's connected. Okay. Back in action. Sorry about that. Okay. The pick we're going to make, I was saying, and I don't know how much time we lost, is going to be this size of this stock, which is fine for the sort of end of the pick, the sort of shaft of it here. What we run into with sweeper blades is we need some kind of a handle because that tends to be pretty skinny. So we'll look at that in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a Sharpie. And you can also use some paint-on bluing like you use when you're machining things, but it'll work pretty well to take some Sharpie. And, oh, let me swap that camera over there. And what you can do is just paint over with the Sharpie the entire area that you're planning to work in, and then use something like an awl or a scribing stick to carve into it the shape of the pick you want to do. How about for this, we'll do a diamond pick. So let me grab a little pokey tool like this, and let me hold that there like that for a second. You could freehand this one, honestly, or you could try to take an existing pick to copy. You could set the existing pick on top, like so, and make some marks. I'm going to find it easier to freehand that in this case. You see this yet? Okay, something like that. I'll be able to see that as I'm cutting now. It's not a perfectly straight line, but I'm going to use this as a guide, and then we'll be using a couple different tools, and we'll be able to get a nice flat line there using a sort of regular file. So let me make this a little clearer to myself. Okay, so I often do this on just a big grinder, but I don't have a camera over there behind me, so what I'm going to do is actually use a Dremel that I've chucked into a little holder here. And so you can see I've got Dremel and a little clamp kind of guy here. Actually, I'm going to clamp that to my vise. Where'd that go? or not my vise, but to this. Does it work on here? Should. Okay, and let me move this vise out of the way so we have some more room. And you've got a lot of choices with rotary tool bits. Here are some different sort of stone or diamond wheels that you can use to grind on. So I'm going to start with this big one here. And again, I want to have water for quenching as I work. I don't want it to get very hot because that can weaken the metal. And this is going to be awkward. All right, that'll work. So if you look, I'm going to turn this on and off real quick. You can see the direction it spins. So just like with a grinder, you want to work so that the tool that you're grinding is lower, not higher, and is not pointed into the direction of the spin, but is getting dragged over its top. So here we go. All right. That's good. You've survived the noise. I'm so sorry about that. That's the nature of this. So now what I can do is begin to flatten that. So I'm going to move this Dremel out of the way and clean up the lines with a hand tool, so just with a file. So what you generally do is get rid of a lot of material using the power tool there, and then you do the more refined work with hand tools, as is often the case with these things. So I'm going to move this camera up a bit, and I'll try to square this for you. Okay, and now what I'll do is place this in the, let me open this up a bit, place this in the vise, and I'm going to leave exposed the sort of flat line I'm trying to make. This is the part of the pick that I want to get nice and evened up. That's good there. So if I tip this camera a little more, what you'll see, I think, let's see if we can get that to zoom or to focus. No, it doesn't want to focus. That's a little close. How about there? Yeah. Okay. So this bit that I've left exposed here, that's what I want to get rid of with a file. So I've got a couple here, a couple flat files, and sorry, this is going to be right in the camera. And I just want to move in one direction. You can see I'm basically, when I get to the top of my vise jaws, I'm square, and flat. The longer stroke you can get, the better, but I'm going to whack this camera if I try. Sorry if I flip over this way. I'm kind of being mindful of that diamond tip at the end that I've got, my little shape there. I want to leave that intact and not chip it off. That's pretty good. I'm going to flip it over now. And, oh, actually, you know, the bottom I never cut, so that's square just from how it was manufactured. So that is looking good to me for filing. And now we're going to just start on it with some smaller files and maybe some sandpaper to get the tip exactly right. So I'm going to leave the tip protruding a little bit here. Clamp it up, and take some little needle files. I'm going to find one that's rounded. So I'm going to take this and give myself a little bit of a radiused turn up into the top of the diamond there. Not too much. Part of the charm of the diamond pick is its peak. This is effective, particularly if you're going to make something like a rake, like a Bogota. You can get this semicircular shape carved out with this type of a little jeweler's file. And now let's see if I can find, here's a nice little square flat one, oh, that's just the edge, sorry. That's smaller than I want. I should label these. Here we go. There's a little flat one, and I'm just going to carefully drag that across that tip. Kind of square it up. Maybe in here a little bit at the tip. And now what I want to do is just go to the sandpaper. So let me move the device out of the way here. Oh. My iPad battery is dying too. It's technical difficulties day here at the John Park Workshop. So I've got, what is this? Some 320 grit paper. Lift that camera up there and focus. It should be able to focus on that nicely. Boom. So I've got this 320 grit, and what I can do with this is just start dragging the tip at the angle that I want to leave on there. So just go and pull it across. Get that nice and smooth. Same with this little tip, has a bit of a fang on it, so I want to round that because this pick wants to push in and lift pins up, and I don't want that to have a sharp fang to it. That's pretty good. And you can also get in here and sort of bevel your edges a little bit. The smoother it is, the easier it'll dance around the pins inside the lock. That's not bad. And now there's a couple of tricks you can use for rounding and smoothing this here. Let's see if I've got a good way to hold it. I'll put it back in the vise for this actually and show you. You can buff it kind of like you're shining a shoe with a strip of paper. And this was a trick I saw Bosnian Bill do. He's got a great series, by the way, on making picks. You should definitely check out for more detail and information. Got a great section about selecting your materials. Let me focus that. Bosnian Bill on YouTube, great series on making picks. So you can take, just cut a strip of sandpaper and that's going to put a nice little rounding over the top of the shaft. Same with the bottom here. And then a trick that, let's see, it's looking pretty good. A trick that was first popularized by a lockpick forum guy named Kokomo, I think, was to take some sandpaper and fold it up in the pages of a book and have different grits, which is really cool. I haven't done that, but I have used the same basic idea to take a small block of wood, fold up a piece of sandpaper, put the pick here, and then you can provide some pressure as you slide that pick in and out. And what we want to do is start to shine the pick, remove any burrs, but get a smooth finish on it. You can see I've removed most of the markings now that were on there. And then you can work your way up through some finer grits of sandpaper. I think I've got some 400 here. And some people will go all the way up to 1,000 and get really shiny picks, which is terrific. I don't have any 1,000 I could find today, so I will have to stop here at this, I think 400. But yeah, a lot of people go 800 and then 1,000. And you can see now I've got a real nice, smooth, shiny pick. And that's going to dance in and out really nicely. I don't feel any catches or anything. I just get a good feel for the pins that are in there as we're working to pick it. By the way, one funny trick you can do with some of these practice locks, the way I built this little stand, is that I can turn the back of the plug, which is normally what is connected to a lock or a latch that actually throws a deadbolt or keeps the catch on a doorknob or whatever. You can, without a tension wrench here, you can turn that, put a little bit of tension on that, and should be able to pick this just by turning on it. That's cheating. Normally you have to use a tension wrench, but kind of a fun way to do it. So that takes us to, yeah, I've got no broadcast chat there, so hopefully we're all still alive and broadcasting. Seems like my software is saying green, yes. So at this point we could clip the bottom of that pick off, and it's a little uncomfortable because of how thin it is, so it's nice to put a handle on it of some kind. You can do things like multiple layers of heat shrink tubing. You don't want to get too fat on it, but you want it a little larger in this dimension. I've made some really fancy ones before, which I think I showed this pick. So I made these out of walnut, and this was something I designed and laser cut from thin veneers, or not thin veneers, but thin pieces of walnut, and also raster cut a little channel in them so that the walnut would fit over that part of the pick there, and then just use some epoxy, let it dry. You can't see any seam in it really, and then I went with a Dremel and started smoothing it and sandpaper and stuff. So that one's just kind of fancy for fanciness sake. But I did try another one earlier today, which is just a little piece of poplar. I had some, you ever seen Kapla blocks or Kapla blocks? They're like little building block toys. I cut on the bandsaw this rough shape, then I set it down the bandsaw, and then flipped the sides so that I had the two halves that were actually straight. This looks wavy, but so I've glued that in there with some wood glue, and now I'm just going to take this over to a sander. And let's see, if I switch cameras, you might be able to see me back here with the sander. You see that? I think you can barely see that, but there's a sander right there. I'm going to put on glasses, and I'm going to sand this to a nicer shape, and I'll show you what that looks like. See, oh, see. Which camera? That camera. Starting to round that. All right, that's as far as I'll take that right now. Let me dust this off a little bit and go to this guy here. You can see we're starting to have like a nice little comfortable to hold wooden pick. It's got actually a bit of, I kind of like the thickness that it's at. Gives you something to hold on to, but you can still feel the pick pretty well. And this is a little hook that I built earlier today. Let me zoom in on that, or focus in on that. Using the same techniques, and you could sand this better obviously and then stain it if you want, or seal it up. So that's a nice way to make a handle. Then let's see, looking at our time, we just got a couple of minutes left. I hope we're still broadcasting because I don't see chat anymore. That seems to have died. Pause that thing. But the last thing I wanted to show was another really great source of material and possibly a fun pocket pick set you can make, which is using a set of feeler gauges. So this one is a bit on the thin side, but these are marked at the different thicknesses. So like 0.006 is way too thin. The thicker ones on this set are what, 0.016 or 0.16? Should be 0.16, right? In inches, thousandths of an inch. So here's one that you can see I made by using that same technique. Let me fold these in here. And if you look around, you can get these pretty cheaply. They're nice high carbon steel, so they cut well. They're not brittle, they're a little springy. And this is a really thin pick, which actually sometimes is very useful depending on the warding of the lock to get around some of those parts. You can see I've made this a little thick here because this material is quite thin. And again, hats off to Bosnian Bill for some of his techniques and ideas behind this. He shows some links on his webpage or on his YouTube channel for buying feeler gauge stock just on its own, which is a very economical way to go. But I thought this was pretty cool. This is just something I got at a yard sale, this little feeler gauge, and I'm not using it. So go in, and now you've got a little set of picks, kind of like a Swiss Army knife, that you can use the same technique for, and no need for a handle, right? It's thick enough up here to get a nice grip on it and then hold this part in your hand here. So that's a fun little pick idea that you can go with there. So that, I think, concludes our homemade picks workshop edition. Sorry for technical difficulties again. I'm going to hop over into the chat, and I'd be curious to know what you think. If any of that actually made it through the internet to you, that would be great to know, because my internet seemed to have blown up a little bit here today. So I'm going to hang out in the Discord chat. I'll check the YouTube chat before that one goes away. Let's see. Working. Okay, so we had some people on Facebook. Hello. A lot of the chat is over on Discord, so if you want to check that out, Facebook people, there are more, tend to be more people chatting over on Discord. If you can get on there, it's free to sign up and use. And let's have a look over at our friends on YouTube. Emery cloth for the metalwork. I haven't. I really should. What are the advantages to emery cloth? I'm assuming that that's cloth-like versus paper. Probably can get around surfaces better, right? It's a little more flexible. So we've got some good people chatting up over in the YouTube chat as well. You hear keyboard typing. Was that me? That might have been earlier. Yeah. All right, good. Well, so thank you everyone, so much for stopping by. I'm going to turn up the funky music again and sign off, and I will see you next week, same time on John Park's Workshop. Bye-bye.